But the reason we came here, my cousin, is because all your family is crying. All your family, they can't hear good because of your death. All your friends are sad, and their heart is kind of like broke. And their minds is laying on the ground in sadness. So that's why we came here tonight. It's not so much you, it's to help your family, the one that's left on earth, to talk to them, to help them get through this grief and this sorrow. She says, now that I had told you this, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to talk now to the people, your family. That's when he now turns around. And then he starts, and this is what he says. He says, when we were born, which I talked about a while ago, our death was already predestined at our birth. And he said, the stick of life that marked how many nights and days you're going to live has been expired. It's all done. Every day the Creator took it off as you lived each day, and now it came when you must leave. So nobody can change that. That's only a natural occurrence. Just the same as when a baby is born, it is a natural occurrence. And so in death, it is like a birth. It's a natural occurrence. It's just another thing of the cycle of human. And then he says, in the beginning of the world, he tells all the people, when the world was new, there was no death. The first humans never seen death because they were new to the world. And as the people were living, all of a sudden, when the world was new, one man, an elder man, all of a sudden fell down on the ground, collapsed. And they didn't know what happened to him. And so they went over there and they tried to shake him up. And they blew on him and they sit him up and he just fall right back down. Pretty soon they stand him right up by both arms on his feet, and when they let him go, he just fall right on the ground. No matter what they did, they couldn't revive him. But they didn't know what that was. What did that? Because they never seen death before. It was completely strange. So, because they didn't know what to do, they used their own mind, what they think they could do. So what they did is they went out in the back where they live, their village, and they got four poles, and they stuck it in the ground. And they tied the poles on the top, and like a scaffold. And they wrapped his body, and they put it on top of that scaffold. And they says, well, maybe during the night, or maybe during the day, he will wake up. And if he wakes up, day or night, he can come down himself and come back to the village. And that's what they did, because they didn't know what else to do. This is when the world was new. So then after a week, he didn't come down. And then they waited another week or so, I don't know how long, but quite a while, and didn't come down. So finally they wondered, we better go check him. So when they went over there and they seen the scaffold, all that was left was bones. There was no more meat or flesh. The animal and birds had taken it, and all that remained is the bones. And they were bewildered. But they didn't know what else to do. Not too long afterwards, he says, another man fell, and they couldn't revive him. And again, they made a scaffold again, and wrapped up body, and put it on the scaffold, And again, they waited. Maybe he'll wake up. But again, he didn't wake up. So they went over there, and all that's left is the bones. Birds and animals had eaten up the flesh. They felt bad, but they didn't know what else to do. That's what they did. So then, some time passed on by. There was a little girl. And this little girl was about that tall. One of the prettiest little girls you ever seen. And this little girl was full of life. And she's always going from one lounge house to the other lounge house. And she's always in the comedy. Knows how to make people laugh. She always says silly things. And so she was a little girl that every time somebody sees her, she's always full of joy. Pretty little thing. And so the whole village used to really like this little girl. They liked all the kids, but particularly this one because she was so joyous. So one day, that little girl fell down on the ground, just like those two men. So they tried to shake her up. They blew on her face. They used water. They couldn't revive her. And it broke the heart of all the village because everybody knew her to be full of life. And they couldn't understand, how could such a little girl go like that, like those men? Because she never had a chance to grow up. But at least those old men, they had lived many years. So that's not so bad as this little girl who had never seen life in its fullest. So they were so worried about it. So finally, there was one man that's in a village. This man in the village, when he was a little boy, he used to ask his uncles and his grandfather and grandma, where does the stars come from? How come there's so many stars, and how come they're all lit up? Who made that stars, and how do they work? He asked. And then he'd say, how about the sun? How come the sun goes away, and then it comes again, and it lights the world, and then it gets dark? How come it does that? And who made it like that? How does that work? This little boy always was curious and nosy as can be. And as a result of his inquiries all the time, he began to collect lots of knowledge. As he was a young boy, he knows lots of things more than regular people. And then as he became a man, because he had all this curiosity and knowledge, the Creator gave him a special gift to see what other people don't see. The one who wants to know about life. And so when anybody had problem, any kind, they always go see that man with their problem. They give him tobacco and he talks to them and he sees for them what's the nature of their problem and how can they remedy and find solution to their problem. He was what they call a seer, one of the best. So the people said, they went to that man that had that reputation, and they said to him, we don't understand what happened to those two older men, and we certainly don't understand what happened to that little girl that we love so much. Our hearts is broke. Our tears is many. We don't know what to do. Can you find out in your great wisdom, in your sight, to tell us what happened? Why did this happen? And he says to them, the people of the village, I don't know what you're asking me. And I don't know if I have the power or the ability to find out either. Because I too never seen it before. This is the first time I ever heard of it and never seen it.